Okay, I just watched the Wheel of Time show, and I've got to say something about it, or I'm not going to be able to sleep. Um, I'm going to give it, well, swipe right if you haven't watched it yet, but I'm going to give it a WTF out of 10. Um, there were so many choices that just did not make sense, um, leading me to the conclusion that maybe the creators have read a lot of fantasy books and seen a lot of movies, but they haven't studied human behavior, culture, or history. Um, and the best thing I can point out about that is there's a scene where the characters are lighting lamps and they light them with matches, which I don't think, I mean, there is gunpowder in the world of the Wheel of Time, but it's a secret thing kept by a secret society. So I don't know. There were just a lot of things like that that they didn't really pay attention to. I mean, forget all the women wearing pants. Um, I don't know how they're going to make men stand out when all the women are wearing pants already. Um, it was bad editing. For example, the Trollocs attack and you can't see the Trollocs. Um, Bad sound mixing. I couldn't hear the dialogue in the tavern scenes in the Wine Spring Inn. Uh, let's see what else. The costumes are trite and um, unoriginal. Best example: Lan is just a samurai. No color changing cloak. No nothing that you can't see in a martial arts movie. Um, Bad exposition. They don't say who the Dark One is. They don't mention the Forsaken. There's no catechism about the Dark One and the Forsaken being locked in Shia Ghul. Um, it's just these monsters just show up. Um, and let's see what else. Um, yeah. Um, there's no concealing that Moiraine is an Aes Sedai. Um, in the opening scene, Egwene is shoved into rapids where she could bump her head and drown. That didn't make a lot of sense. She's being inducted into the women's circle when she's a teenager. The women's circle is not just the women of the village. The women's circle is a governing body in the village, and only a few women are in it. Um, Perrin is married. I don't, I don't get it. Um, it's worse than just Perrin is married. Um, and then people are banging each other like all over the place, including main characters. Um, I don't. They're supposed to be naive, you know, farm boys. I didn't buy it. And it's not just the differences from the book. It's that there were a lot of choices made that just didn't make a lot of sense. Capping it off with um, after the winter night battle, it goes on way too long and just um, the Fade doesn't even come into town for some reason. Um, uh, and then they just decide to leave. Just let's just take off. And Moraine turns to Egwene and says, "You're coming with me," and she just goes, "Okay," and they just ride out of town, and that's the end of the show. It's there's no tension, no like debate, no dilemma. It's just we're out of time. Let's take off. It's the end of the show. There were so many choices that just did not make sense, and it's not just the differences from the book. It's yeah. I mean, the music that they used was for the villagers was silly, and Tom is nowhere to be seen. Um, the yeah, just too many too many bad choices. I don't know. Like I said, it seems like they're trying to make a fantasy show, um, and it's not really plausible. It's not really um, believable. I mean, why is Nynaeve washing the rocks in a cenote? You don't have to do that. It it's just there to create conflict between Nynaeve and Moiraine, which would already be there if they would explore the characters properly. Um, it's just there's just so many things that just don't make sense. Um, yeah, it's really disappointing, but I kind of knew that it would be this way. I mean, I don't. There's just too many things to that are hard to look past, and it's not that the women are wearing pants and everybody's the wrong height, and Rand is the same height as everybody else in the village, and his eyes are the wrong color. It's not things like that. It's that um, it's just a poorly told story with too many things that don't make sense, and the characters do matter. I mean, everybody has their favorite characters, but um, and of course, Nynaeve is my favorite character. But um, having Perrin be married and Matt is a total asshole, um, that's not that's not in keeping with the book, and that is not something that you can just say, oh well, we had to make some changes because we're putting on the screen. You don't have. That's I can't conceive of how that's a change they would have to make. That just doesn't make any sense. Um, yeah, it just yeah. Uh, it just it just looked kind of you know cheap. Doesn't do justice to the book. I knew it wouldn't, but that doesn't mean that there would have to be all these choices that didn't make a lot of sense. So I don't know. I'm gonna watch the rest of the series, but I'm my expectations are even lower than they were before.